I think the distinction between camping in your truck and overlanding is maybe the destination that's in mind. Serious overlanding is your vehicle is outfitted with enough stuff that you can survive weeks without any support, versus, oh, I'm cruising some back roads in Arkansas and camping along the way. I think the along the way part is what changes it from overlanding to, hey, I'm just car camping.
One way of distinguishing between car camping, truck camping, and overlanding is the overlanding has more emphasis on the journey to get there, and the camping is more on, all right, let's get there and then do what we came for.
Overlanding isn't just about packing up and hitting the road. It's about something deeper. For me, overlanding is about stripping life down to the essentials, getting away from distractions, and embracing life's simplicity. It's a way of reconnecting with nature and, in a sense, myself. You realize quickly that what matters back home doesn't matter out here. What matters is your ability to adapt, to take care of yourself, and to be present in the moment. My love for nature didn't start with an outdoorsy childhood. Like most kids, my only outdoor activity was playing on the playground or in the yard. But that changed in my early teens. My older brother Mason first sparked my interest in off-roading when he started to modify his Chevy Trailblazer for the trails. Helping him with his truck showed me the thrill of navigating rugged paths, and I quickly wanted a vehicle of my own. It wasn't just the thrill of off-roading, it was the learning experience and getting to see places that most people don't get to see. My mom also helped spark my interest by introducing me to backpacking. That's where I really learned self-reliance and environmental stewardship. You become very aware of how much you're impacting the world around you with every piece of trash, every footprint, every campfire. You realize how we treat the wilderness matters. My experiences with my mom and brother taught me not only to appreciate the outdoors, but also to actively care for it. Shane Seaton, a professional outdoorsman, agrees that developing a connection with nature can help spark conservation.
Experiences in nature as a child really make it a lot more highly likely that someone will begin to care for nature. But even somebody that just gets into it as an adult, I think those experiences can lead them to think more openly about, hey, I should care for this stuff immediately around me, but also how do my decisions affect the larger scope?
So looking back, it was definitely my family that sparked my interest in the outdoors, and I'm thankful I got to develop a deep connection to it as I grew older. As I spent more time out here, overlanding began to teach me some of the basic skills I now take for granted, like cooking. Back then, I was honestly so intimidated by it. I avoided it, even for myself. But out here, you don't really have a choice. You have to learn. Plus, food just simply tastes better when you've earned it after a long day. And now, I'm the one who does all the cooking when I take friends out, which is quite a difference from the person who used to avoid the kitchen altogether. Just like cooking, even the simple act of waking up feels different. Back home, alarms feel threatening, dragging me from sleep, but out here, I wake up with the sun. There's no alarms, no rush, just the sound of the wind through the trees and the birds starting their day. It feels natural, like this is how we're supposed to wake up. Nature resets something in me. It reminds me to find joy in life's simplicity, in ways that are impossible surrounded by walls and screens. That's what overlanding does. It removes the unnecessary distractions of modern life, and it brings you face to face with the essentials. It teaches you resilience and patience, but most of all, it reminds you to find joy in the simplicity of life. And you don't need to travel halfway across the world to find that kind of joy. All you have to do is to step outside, into the wild, and give yourself space to breathe. Overlanding forces you to strip life down to the basics, to ask, what do you truly need? I found the answer is often much less than we think. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that we need the latest gear or the most extravagant destinations. But really, overlanding is about being content and present with the world around you. Philosophy professor and ethicist Dr. Byron Eubanks challenges us to embrace simplicity.
Some of these activities tend to be sort of gear-centric. There's always another tool or this or that, oh, I'm not really, I need this. And so our impacts on the environment are often indirect based on the stuff that we collect and then have to dispose of. And so learning how to sort of do with enough and not think that there's always something else I need to add into my kit not another piece to add on to my truck. Learning how to say no and say this is enough. I can manage well with this.
And that's what overlanding is at its core. It's not about having the best gear or traveling to the most grand destinations. It's about moments like these, finding peace in nature, learning to adapt, and respecting the environment you're in. When you experience nature firsthand, you start to develop an awareness that comes with a sense of responsibility. You begin to treat these places with the respect they deserve, which is the concept of ground truthing. The idea that being out in nature helps us understand it better. I can look at all the pictures or watch all the videos, but none of that compares to physically being here and seeing the land with my own eyes. It's these immersive experiences that deepen our connection with the land and shape our understanding of it. And with that understanding comes a sense of responsibility. You begin to care for these places because you know them and you've lived in them, even if it's just for a few days. Overlanding reminds us that we don't need much to enjoy the world around us. In fact, it's often when we strip away the excess that we're able to connect more deeply with it. Yet as much as overlanding allows people to connect with nature, I can't help but worry about its impacts. There's a growing demand for outdoor spaces, but the amount of available public land is shrinking, which leads to overcrowding, increased wear and tear on the environment, and a greater strain on the places that can still accommodate us. It's a delicate balance. On one hand, overlanding offers access to nature, which helps people build that connection. But on the other hand, every vehicle, every campfire, every footprint leaves a mark. As the number of visitors increases, it's more important than ever to be responsible and mindful of the places we visit, which is why I wanted to speak with experts who know these lands about the impacts of overlanding, the challenges we face, and the ways we can help ensure these places remain open and healthy for future generations. The U.S. Forest Service plays a vital role in maintaining public lands and balancing recreation with conservation. Their mission is to ensure that our forests remain strong for the future.
The mission of the Forest Service is to sustain the health and diversity of the nation's grasslands and forest for the present and future generations. And we are more of a conservation-focused agency that looks at multi-use and providing recreation, but also forest products and other things on national forest that take place. So we have a lot of things happening on national forest land.
Through their work, we're reminded of the importance of preserving these spaces so they remain accessible to everyone. That's where principles like leave no trace and tread lightly apply. These initiatives aim to educate overlanders, hikers, and anyone who spends time outdoors to help us be better stewards of the land.
There's a few ways to promote less impactful recreation. On a smaller level, if someone is interested in going and doing these outdoor activities, do a little bit of research before you go. Study the principles, learn a few of the minor rules, and really just kind of on an individual level, start caring a little bit and thinking about how is this impactful.
Yeah, Leave No Trace is one of the standard outdoor ethics programs. I mean, there's an organization, there's training, and so it basically, as the name says, you're trying to, when you leave an area that you've been utilizing, camping, hiking, whatever, you want it to reflect not a bit of your presence. So you want to leave it in a way that someone who comes behind you wouldn't even know that you've been there. You're trying to limit the impact that you have on the resource that you're enjoying. And so that's the heart of the Leave No Trace ethics.
Well, Leave No Trace is basically, I think the motto is leave only footprints, take only photos. One of the major things with that is kind of another thing we say is pack it in, pack it out. So these places that are often being overlanded to are dispersed recreation areas. They're not developed. So it is up to the individual user to know the best practices through the Leave No Trace concept and the Tread Lightly concept.
It's not just knowing these principles, it's putting them into practice. As overlanders, the impact of our actions can be immediate, but we also need to think about the long-term effects. It's not just about what we're doing right now, it's how our collective actions shape the environment going forward.
The small term is, how am I impacting the particular resource I'm using? This trail, this road, this forest, what am I doing there? Bigger picture is, how much gas did I burn getting there? How much money have I spent buying gear, doing modifications? How does that, there's always an opportunity cost. So those are bigger considerations. They're systemic that we as individuals don't have a lot of individual impact on, but collectively we do. And so that's the challenge to me for the bigger picture of creation care is, how do I certainly take care of the small scale stuff that I'm doing, but how do I also pay attention to how the collective impact of a lot of people affects the health of our planet?
Understanding this balance helps us see the connection between what we do today and the world we'll leave behind. Thinking about future generations is one of the key motivations for creation care. We need to ask ourselves, are we leaving this land better than we found it?
We can get so tied up in what we enjoy that we may not think about what are we doing that's going to make this not accessible or not enjoyable for my kids, my grandkids. One of the motivations for doing creation care is a generational component. See, and many would say we have an obligation to leave a world for the next generation that is as livable or better than what we had. So if you take that same sort of fundamental insight on leave no trace, we want to leave an area better than when we found it.
One of the biggest challenges in land management is the impact of overuse on the land itself, like erosion and the disturbance of wildlife.
The time of use and that duration after wet weather, the number of users on the same trail at the same time, all of those can really change that erosion potential or that impact on water quality. A lot of the roads and trails on the Ozark National Forest and on National Forest across country were designed at a time where we didn't have the motorized vehicles or use or access desired today, or the capability.
And as more people discover these hidden gems, the strain on the environment increases. Tourism can benefit local communities, but it also puts a pressure on infrastructure and natural resources.
I mean, the positive is tourism is a thing. It's an industry for a reason. And so here are maybe small rural communities that all of a sudden have more traffic coming through. And so it really can kind of boost rural communities. But then the challenge can be all these people are all of a sudden inundating this area, but the roads, the law enforcement, EMS services aren't made to have that many people.
Well, largely the impacts are just that, the increased traffic. So once people find a beautiful place to go, for example, or a trail that they want to go on, the more people go on that, then the higher the impact. But when you start having 1 million, 2 million visitors, then it becomes a real challenge to manage that.
It's not just one vehicle, it's multiple vehicles over and over in one area. So those are kind of a combination of things. It's not just a one-time use vehicle, it's the erosion that occurs as a result of it over time.
The growing interest in overlanding is partly because adventurers like to share their passion with others. Geotagging has made it easier to expand the social aspect, but it also brings challenges. It's okay to want others to enjoy these places, but we must be careful not to overcrowd them.
Yeah, geotagging is a hard subject. Here's this awesome place. I got to experience it. Shouldn't I let other people get to experience it as well? But most of these places are just some random place out in the woods. They don't have systems set up to care for or to just take that much people coming.
Some people will tell you exactly this is where it is, this is how you get there. Others are much more secretive, perhaps because they're trying to reduce impacts from the land, perhaps because they want to keep it for their own little private playground. It's an unfair use of one's resources to limit everybody else's access to something that often, for years, maybe for hundreds of years, has been a public resource.
There is part of getting outside that GPS and websites about everything and people's blogs have taken out the adventure side of it. Just going out and driving and seeing what you see is part of the fun. When you think about overlanding, if the journey is the fun, then just giving somebody an idea of, hey, it's in this general region, and then everybody can go explore the region and find it on their own.
We need to find a balance between keeping these spaces accessible and protecting them from overuse. One way to do that is by ensuring discovery remains part of the adventure. So how can we minimize our impact and protect these wild spaces?
I think that's the best opportunity that I can think of in terms of picking up trash behind themselves, camping in areas that are sustainable, trying to avoid like wet weather areas, and really, intentionally degrading a road or driving up and down streams.
Not spinning their tires and purposely trying to create that, that rough conditions. Well, that perpetuates a problem when you just continually hit those areas. It only takes a few small number of people doing, to do the damage that it's harmful to the resource.
By following these simple steps, overlanders can ensure they keep the wilderness healthy and accessible. Another way we can contribute to protecting the environment is by respecting the rules, staying on designated roads, and respecting private property.
I probably get two primary complaints when it comes to overlanding. One is, I would like to have more places to ride. Can you open more roads? The second is the opposite. Please close these roads. And it's usually coming from landowners who are having issues. And so there's this dilemma there that, it's really important to respect, like Tim said, the private landowners especially. Otherwise, the overlanders are going to lose access more and more as a result of abusive behavior on a private property.
As well as knowing where you are on the motor vehicle use map, respecting private lands is a really important part. The national forests are intertwined with private lands, and while we want to make those public lands available, we also want to be good neighbors and to people that are adjacent to national forests. Private landowners often have conflicts with overlanders and other recreating public, and their private property is damaged, and that does lead to issues where it forces the Forest Service to take action.
We're looking to provide access because we provide public pathways into your national forest. But also we're in turn looking for responsible use. And with responsible use, typically will help gain more access. I think it's very important that the folks that are accessing the land understand that we may not be able to provide everything that you want all the time, but still, we have so much opportunity for access to the experience can be obtained.
By following the rules and respecting the land, we can help safeguard our access to these beautiful places. Thankfully, taking care of nature isn't just good for the environment, it's beneficial for us too. Being outdoors has significant mental and physical health benefits.
I think there's ample evidence that shows that being outside has some significant mental health benefits, that especially in a world where so much of people's time is spent on screens, that time out away from screens, totally, if not totally, mostly unplugged in nature, has a way of counteracting or helping us, recharge, recover from all that screen time and all the things that we get to in life in general. There's for most people, a social component in outdoor activities. So if you're camping on a beautiful mountain and you see a sunset, it's great. If there's someone else seeing it with you, somehow that makes it better. And you enjoy sitting around a campfire. It's beautiful, it's relaxing, it's great. Having good conversation, even if it's not a lot of conversation, having someone to share that with enhances the experience.
Community is not only beneficial for overlanders, but it makes us better conservationists too. We need to come together as a community to protect these places.
No one person can clean everything up, and there are a community of people, lots of people using the resources. So you don't really want to have one person trying to clean up after everybody else. You want to have people who are using whatever resource we're talking about, understanding what they need to do to take care of things.
Being open and willing to go up to somebody you don't know and say, hey, I read on that billboard or I read on that post board back there from the Forest Service, that we need to make sure not to leave this or do that. Kind of trying to put the authority not in you, but in the Forest Service or this organization. And so being willing to step out and tell people those things, it's just saying, which one of these would you prefer to have? A broken down fire pit with trash in it, or a nice clean ring ready to go?
If we want these places to be here for the next generation, it takes all of us working together. The Forest Service also recognizes they can't do it alone. However, the true value of working with groups to ensure overlanding remains a sustainable activity is yet to be utilized.
as someone who helps or assists with the volunteer coordination on our trails, so that is something that we can explore with the overlanding and motorized use community that I see that we're lacking on this forest. So we could put together a volunteer group and people can kind of like adopt a highway or adopt a section of trail or a certain trail or road, and we could work that in. That is in the realm of possibilities.
But then I also need to think big picture. What can I do to support organizations, to support laws, regulations that are addressing the big picture that I can't affect, individuals can't affect. Only governments and major corporations can have that big impact. But we can support with our money, with our vote, with our voice, at least moving in that direction.
So it's a great opportunity for a partnership that can be sustainable and long-lasting, and it can also, I think, improve some of the users' opportunity. So we're more knowledgeable, and then the user group's more knowledgeable.
We shouldn't let the challenges of conservation scare us or turn us away. Instead, it should motivate us. Because despite the potential problems, overlanding offers incredible opportunities for adventure, community, and connection to nature.
We sound like we're being extremely negative toward overlanding, but we don't mean to be that. We're just pointing out some of the issues and challenges. We really genuinely believe that it's a great recreation opportunity, and we want the public to enjoy it, and we want to promote it and support it any way we can. That's one reason we're pointing out the issues, so we can continue for the future and we can provide greater opportunities for the public to enjoy overlanding. So there's a lot of positives about overlanding that we want to definitely emphasize.
I think it's a really interesting recreational use from the social aspect of it. You know, there's a sense of adventure, there's a sense of exploration, but there's also a sense of community.
Through overlanding, I found that each journey into the wild is a chance to reconnect with myself, with nature, and with those that share it. Each stretch of trail, each night under the stars, and each sunrise reminds me that we're only visitors here. We're privileged to experience these places, but we're also entrusted to protect them. Overlanding isn't just about the miles we cover. It's about being fully present in the moment, finding joy in life's simplicity, and treating the land as a partner instead of a backdrop. That connection gives us a responsibility to care for these places, to ensure they remain wild and beautiful for generations to come. We've explored what it means to belong to these lands, and the responsibility we carry to tread lightly and reduce our impact. As adventurers and stewards, we can make a difference, whether by picking up after ourselves, sticking to designated trails, or supporting conservation. Because we receive so much from the land, it's up to us to give back. If we honor these places, they'll continue to inspire and sustain the next generation of adventurers, offering the same freedom and wonder we found.
We just encourage people to do that, to go other places in the country, to visit those continental divides, and to go across the great lands that we have.
God gave us creation as a sign of His love. He wants us to be in it. He wants us to see Him in it. And so by getting out in it and playing in His creation, we see Him. And so if we can kind of pay attention to our impact, then it's okay to go play in it.